After Vice President J.D. Vance announced that Iran agreed to allow inspectors from the International Atomic Energy Agency into the country, President Trump posted this morning on Truth Social, saying in part that if they didn't agree to this, there would be no further negotiations. Well, the Iranians are officially declaring today that they did not agree to this point. Listen now.
The answer to both disputes is no. We did not have a meeting with the Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, nor do we have any plans for the agency to inspect Iran's damaged nuclear facilities. Due to the military aggression of the United States and the Zionist regime, both for security reasons.
President Trump spoke from the Oval Office on Monday, saying that if Iran does not uphold its part of the agreement, he will do whatever he has to do. The focus over the next 60 days will be to resolve issues surrounding Iran's nuclear program and keep the Strait of Hormuz open. With the initial agreement in place, millions of barrels of crude oil are leaving the Persian Gulf every day.
Yesterday, we received more oil than ever before, more than has ever passed through the Strait. You can probably see that we have a gusher of oil. The Strait is completely open, you know that, and we're negotiating. Let's see how this all unfolds. But we have two things. We have the Strait open, and we have a country that will never have a nuclear weapon, never ever have a nuclear weapon.
On Monday, Zibar's treasury authorized the sale of Iranian oil, temporarily suspending old sanctions on the regime. According to President Trump, this relief will be controlled by the United States, and the unfrozen money that Iran will receive in the future would be used to buy food and medical supplies for the Iranian people. Now, there's this other broad issue of Lebanon and the exchange of fire between Israel and Hezbollah. Today, the Israelis hit a cell of Hezbollah gunmen in the southern part of Lebanon. They say they had intelligence information. Militants were reportedly planning to attack their forces.
Trump increased the pressure by stating that Tehran accepted intrusive nuclear inspections for an extended period and that there will be no new negotiations if the regime tries to escape from this central point. The Iranian response came unexpectedly. Authorities in Tehran said they did not agree to new nuclear commitments and denied that the International Atomic Energy Agency already has a free path to return to the heart of the nuclear program. Iran tries to sell its public the image that it did not back down, and that's where the rupture appears. Washington mentions an agreement, Tehran denies it, and the world sees a desperate regime seeking money without offering trust. What did Iran really accept? Why does Trump threaten to close the door on negotiations? How does Tehran plan to get out of this without admitting defeat? I'll tell you all about it in a moment. If you like this kind of straightforward, no-nonsense content, don't forget to subscribe because we have videos like this every day. Trump posted that Iran has agreed fully and completely to the highest level of nuclear inspections in the future. The statement came as a direct warning to Tehran because the President of the United States tied the continuation of the talks to a simple condition. Either the regime accepts real inspections or there is no deal to ease the pressure. Trump stated that American ships remain positioned in the region in case it is necessary to resume the blockade. According to him, 19 million barrels of oil passed through the Strait of Hormuz on Monday, while the initial agreement kept the route open. The message was simple. Trade can continue but under surveillance. Iran responded by denying the American version. Iranian authorities said there was no new commitment regarding the nuclear program and that there is no finalized authorization for international inspectors to enter the facilities. Facilities. This denial raised an alert because it shows Tehran trying to separate what was discussed at the table from the narrative presented to the domestic audience. On the outside, the regime wants access to resources. On the inside, it tries to say that it didn't give in. Trump had already warned on Monday, June 22, 2026, that he would do whatever it takes if Iran did not comply with the agreement. That statement didn't come alone. It appeared at the moment when the Iranian regime began to challenge points considered essential by Washington, especially nuclear inspections and the use of unfrozen funds. The financial aspect is one of the most sensitive. The American proposal stipulates that Iranian funds released by the United States Treasury go into a controlled account with their use directed toward food and medical supplies purchased from the United States. In practice, the money would not go freely into the regime's coffers. It would be used for corn, wheat, soybeans, medicines, and basic items for the Iranian population. Trump sells this as humanitarian aid and also as a victory for American farmers. Tehran didn't like this framing. The president of the Iranian Central Bank, Abdel Nasser Remati, said that Iran would not be obligated to buy agricultural inputs from the United States, and that the resources could be used for other non-sanctioned goods. This reaction shows the scale of the dispute. Washington wants the money to be earmarked, monitored, and limited. Iran wants room to decide how to spend it. The difference between the two positions reveals why the negotiation came to a standstill. Qatar appears at the center of this mechanism because part of the frozen Iranian assets is linked to Doha. The plan discussed by Washington and Qatar would allow billions of dollars in Iranian assets to be used for humanitarian spending, starting with $6 billion held in Qatar. The official justification is to prevent the money from being handed directly to the regime. Even so, Qatar's involvement has become the target of heavy criticism among security analysts. The concern stems from Qatar's political history in the region. Critics point out that Doha has previously been accused of giving space to Hamas leaders, maintaining channels with the Taliban, and working closely with groups linked to the Muslim Brotherhood. The United States Treasury also announced measures in May 2026 against networks aligned with Hamas and the Muslim Brotherhood, reinforcing that these connections remain on Washington's radar. For this reason, putting Qatar in charge of financial control creates distrust among sectors that advocate maximum pressure against Tehran. The criticism is that even when the money is intended for food and medicine, the Iranian regime may gain some budgetary relief. If Tehran doesn't need to spend its own resources on basic goods, it frees up space for other areas that worry Washington, Israel, and allies in the Gulf. This is the loophole pointed out by analysts. Humanitarian aid can relieve the population, but it can also allow the regime's elite to reorganize their finances, influence, and Israeli networks. Jade Vance also joined this discussion by explaining that any unfrozen Iranian assets would require American and Qatari approval before being used. The proposal tries to unite three objectives at the same time: keeping Iran at the table, benefiting American farmers, and reducing the risk of indirect funding to groups allied with the regime. In Lebanon, the tension remains connected to groups supported by Tehran. For Washington, the nuclear issue is not isolated. The same regime that discusses inspections also maintains influence over militias and organizations that threaten Israel and US-linked bases in the Gulf. The difference now is that Trump does not want to repeat the logic of releasing resources first and demanding behavior later. The public pressure indicates that he wants to extract visible concessions before allowing any major gain to the regime. Tehran tries to test this limit by denying parts of the agreement to its population. The White House responds by saying that without inspection and without nuclear honesty, there will be no diplomatic path. Iran is in a tight situation. It needs economic relief. It needs to keep the Strait open to reduce the risk of direct confrontation, and it needs to avoid an image of internal surrender. At the same time, it faces an American president who has turned every detail of the agreement into a tool for public pressure. The 60-day deadline now serves as a test of strength. During this period, Washington expects verifiable actions, not just statements. Iran needs to show whether it will allow inspections, keep the Hormuz Strait open, and accept that the money is tied to controlled humanitarian purchases. The regime is trying to buy time, but Trump is trying to prevent that time from turning into an advantage for Tehran. Qatar remains an uncomfortable player. Qatar cannot be treated as a reliable overseer without its regional track record being put on the table. The negotiation is still developing, but the political message has already been sent. Trump threatens to end the talks if Iran backs out of the key terms. Iran responds by saying it did not agree. Will Tehran comply, or will it test the patience of the United States again? I'm Milson Alves, Global and International Affairs Specialist, and my purpose is to keep you accurately informed every day. The news links are in the video description. Like this video, subscribe, and check the comments afterward to stay engaged with the Milson Alves community.